All right, folks, welcome into a special edition of the Nittany Lion Sports Report. Bob Long is here, and along with me, we have a special guest. His name is Winston Eubanks, and he is the newest Penn State football commit. He's a grad transfer. He's coming from Shippensburg University, where he had a wonderful career there, three-time first-team All-PSAC. Came from LaSalle College High School, which for those of you tuning in for our Penn State stuff that may not have come across that, I also broadcast all the LaSalle College High School football games. So Winston is a fan favorite of mine. I am happy that we have him on. And Winston, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm really happy to be on the show. I'm happy to see your guys' progress since the last time we've talked. I definitely missed LaSalle football, but I'm happy to be on with you guys again.
Well, absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, we'll have to get a commitment from you to next time you're in town for a LaSalle football game, come up and join us in the booth. We'd love to.
Oh, that would be decent.
we need that hard-hitting football analysis there.
Right. I got to work on my analysis game, but I'll get to you. I get back.
Well, you're a very knowledgeable student of the game. I mean, I noticed that the moment I started broadcasting you at LaSalle, and certainly your progress at Shippensburg is another example of that. This is such a unique story, though, because call it a month ago, you committed to Penn State. You had played your 3 years at Division II Shippensburg. Mm-hmm. And at least for me and my co-host Tyler, who follow recruiting pretty closely, this one caught us a little bit out of left field, and we were really excited to see that this recruit was going to come in and have all this type of already college experience. You know, it's so tough to come from the high school level to a Power 5. So if you could, walk us through, start to finish, how this came about and how this opportunity ended up being consummated.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously it really started with COVID. I was going through spring workouts with my team at Shippensburg. Then obviously, we went on spring break and then weren't allowed to come back because of COVID. So, as time was moving on, we kind of anticipated that things would slow down. Obviously, they didn't. They increasingly got worse. And we just kind of, me and my friend Charles, you remember Charles Heaton, obviously, we were kind of talking back and forth. We were just like, yo, you think they're going to cancel the season? And I was just like, I don't know. Like, at that point, it was kind of 50-50 in our eyes. We didn't know what decisions were being made. But we kind of started to think ahead, start, making plans of what we would do if they cancel our senior year. We wouldn't be allowed to play football. What were we going to do? So I had kind of already started making contingency plans on what I wanted to do because, this is my life. This is my future. Football is something that I care about. And I knew that there were going to be other schools that were going to be playing football. So, summer comes along, Division III conferences start canceling. And then I'm like, okay, that's when everything dominoes started falling. I'm like, all right, it's going to hit us. I know it's going to hit us. So, I didn't really talk about it with my coaches because I didn't want to bring something like that into fruition because, obviously that was going to be a major move. I'm a 2-time captain at Shippensburg. Those are my guys. That's my family. No part of me wanted to leave, whatsoever. But at the end of the day, I had to do what was best for me and best for my family. So once, my head coach kind of gave the announcement, hey, our season's canceled, I went in the portal the very next day, and I had a conversation with him, the entire coaching staff. I sent out a letter to all my teammates and, everyone pretty much understood where I was coming from. There was no ill will, no hard feelings. Everybody knew where my mindset was. They knew I wouldn't have done that if I didn't have to. So it kind of made things a lot easier and smoother going into the transfer portal for me. And, when I first entered in, I didn't really even have a list of schools that I wanted to go to. I just was like, I just want to go play football somewhere, preferably Division I. So, I'm kind of looking through schools, and I actually was the one that reached out to Penn State. I asked Coach Mack, my head coach at Shippensburg, I asked him, hey, you have any connections at Penn State? It's kind of a reach school. Just wanted to, look at it, see if they'd be interested. He's like, yeah, I have Coach Franklin's number. I'll send him over your stuff. So he reached out to him for me, sent him my film. They looked over it, said they loved it and they were interested. And, the rest is history. Like, I did a couple virtual workouts for them, sent them up there so they could review it because nothing could be in person due to the COVID stuff, obviously. So that was tough. But I did what I had to do, sent them some stuff, and we kind of came to an agreement, and now I'm a Nittany Lion.
That's wonderful. Now, before you got to that point, how wide was the search, and was it mostly Power Five schools?
Yeah, I was mainly looking at Power Five schools. I was looking at a couple of Division I AA schools, but I definitely wanted to go somewhere where there was going to be a really tough competition. And I want to go somewhere where I was going to be last guy on the totem pole. So I'd have to, work my way up. And me coming in, being a new guy, having to earn my stripes is going to make me that much better of a player than going somewhere where, they're going to say, hey, you're the guy, everything's going to be handed to you. I don't think greatness comes that way. So I wanted to put myself in a high pressure situation so that, I could become the best version of me.
Sure. Now, with Penn State this year, first year wide receivers coach Taylor Stubblefield is working with that unit. I know that you mentioned your first contact was with James Franklin through your head coach at Shippensburg. Have you gotten the chance to talk to Coach Stubblefield, and what has he told you about what the wide receiver room looks like next year?
Yeah, so I did get a chance to talk to Coach Stubblefield. He's a great guy. I'm excited to learn as much as I can from him. And he kept it 100% honest with me, 100% real. He said, the best players play no matter if you're young, old, experienced, unexperienced. You got to come there and work. And he told me that my focus should be, doing everything 110%, learning as much as I can, and getting ready to help the team in whatever way I can. And obviously, me wanting to be a leader on the team, do what I can as far as in workouts, in the classroom, off the field, things like that. Just having been in college football for as long as I have, I do have some experience of things that, freshmen, sophomores, juniors may not have. So I think that that's going to be very beneficial of me coming to the program.
Certainly. And yes, of course, right? You want to go in, and competition is always great, and not to be handed anything. The other way to look at that is it is somewhat of an open, albeit very talented, wide receiver room right now. And there have been a couple of guys that have really stood out, some freshmen, some true freshmen this year, which has been really impressive. But it is exciting to hear you talk about your conversation with Coach Stubblefield, and that, really this is an open competition. And here you come with 3 years college experience, 4 years with your redshirt year. What do you think that experience does bring to the table, having 3 years in the PSAC versus coming out of high school?
I think it brings a lot. So I've kind of seen the ups and downs, ebbs and flows of multiple seasons. I kind of know what to do, what not to do. I've kind of made a lot of the freshman mistakes on the field. I went through the growing pains. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff I have to learn coming to this level, but I don't think it's nothing I can't handle. And, I think it's going to be very beneficial to me coming in because, I've played a lot of football games, played a lot of college football games with, a ton of guys who were Division I talent, but maybe couldn't go because of, height, injury, grade, whatever the case may be. So I've played with some high level, highly talented guys. So I think my experience would definitely help me out a lot.
Speaking of which, where are you most comfortable on the field? Where did you play the majority of your snaps in college? Was it more that XZ outside receiver lay terms, or are you more of a Y slot guy? And do you see any change when you move up to Penn State?
So I played X primarily my redshirt freshman year at Shippensburg, where I broke a lot of records. But once we got a new offensive coordinator, I kind of played both. I played a lot of Z, played outside, played a lot in the slot too. Sometimes I was taken in the backfield, ran some motions, some sweeps. So I was used a lot of different ways my sophomore and junior year. As far as Penn State goes, I have no idea. I know they want to use me as a wide receiver, but, I'm willing to be placed wherever I need to be to, be a weapon on the field, whether it's special teams, whether it's, getting sweeps, slot, running back, wherever they need me to play, I'm willing to do.
And you mentioned that when you made this decision, it was a tough one, but at the end of the day, football is your life. It's what you love. So what do you think, and I know you're getting into a new situation, settled in, but have you thought about your future after Penn State, whether, that is in football at a higher level, whether that is getting into coaching at some point, whether that's both? You said that football is your love. So what is it that you see? I mean, what's a good 5-year path look like for you?
That's a really good question. And I'm not entirely sure. I remember when I was in high school, I had like a whole 5-year plan mapped out and none of it worked out. So I'm trying to stay away from that and just kind of seeing where life takes me and then adjusting on the fly. So once I get up Penn State, I'll do what I have to do with football. I'll keep playing as long as I can. And, whatever happens, happens. I think things will work out for the best as long as I, stay motivated and do everything I'm supposed to do. So
interesting talking about high school too. It's a good segue because tomorrow, and probably when we release this interview, is National Signing Day. And
Yep.
it's a big day for high school kids to finally put that ink to paper and decide where they're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could, if you were to go back and talk to 4 years ago, Winston Eubanks coming out of LaSalle College High School, what was that day like? What's important in the coming months? Some of these folks are going to enroll early. I know you're going to enroll early as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's the time frame like, I guess, leading up to signing day and then shortly thereafter?
If I could go back, I would say my experience was awesome. And I really appreciated what I learned from playing at Shippensburg. We didn't have a lot of resources that, a lot of the big Division I schools have, but we had grit, we had heart, we had toughness, and we didn't complain, never made excuses. So those were a lot of the intangibles that I feel I can really bring with me. And, I think back then, my goal wasn't really to make it to the NFL at that time. It was really to just play football because I love playing football. And if I could tell myself anything, I would say, stay exactly how you are, because, I feel like the moment you start playing for money or you start playing for glory or all this other stuff, it kind of gets old after a while. And that's how I feel. I feel a lot of guys get burnt out very fast. So I'm always going to play this game because it's fun, period. And it's not nothing else. Obviously money is great, which is end goal, you know what I'm saying? But I play the game because it's fun. And that's it. And I feel like sometimes we get so caught up and, wins, losses, this, that, and the third. I'm out there playing because the game is fun. And obviously I'm going to put my best foot forward, because I don't want to look like I haven't been putting in the work. But at the same time, I always remember that this game is meant to be fun. It's a game, and we're supposed to play it, like we're enjoying it. So I always try to keep that state of mind because I believe that allows me to play at my best. It lets me play loose, free, and crisp.
Well, let's talk about a fun offensive system then. Kirk Shiraka, first-year offensive coordinator at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the year didn't start the way that anybody would have liked, but they had a lot of resolve, a lot of character, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in order to earn those 3 wins. And
Yeah.
you are seeing, I think, the benefit of more time with Kirk Shiraka. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the spring to work with the guys the way you normally would around spring game and spring practice.
Yeah.
But what he brought to Minnesota is still really impressive, and I think wets the whistle of Penn State players and Penn State fans. Have you gotten a chance to watch Kirk Shiraka's offense or learn from him or others about his offensive mentality and what that may look like?
Yeah, I've definitely learned a lot from watching the games. I feel like at first they definitely struggled, and I think because not having a spring ball, that definitely has an effect. Because you need to have a spring ball, you need to have those summer practices, that camp, and obviously I know the Big Ten was canceled at first, and then they brought it back. Like all that stuff has an effect on play, on calling, on chemistry. So the fact that I think they did at least what they did without having all that, I think should be commended. But it's very difficult, and from what I've seen, from what I'm seeing now, it's definitely starting to come together. The pieces starting to mold, and everything is starting to flow a little bit better, as you can see with the scores of the last couple games. So I'm excited about the high-powered offense for sure.
Yeah, we are too, by the way, coming from our seats and doing this show. I love the concept of a simple read option and then giving that quarterback 2 or 3 decisions to make, putting defensive players in space and forcing them to make decisions. I think it is something that is going to work out very well over the course of his tenure, and excited to have you a part of that next year.
Definitely.
Should be fun. But let's take a step back, and we'll get to the LaSalle stuff as well before we get out of here, because I'm excited to talk about your experience there. But Shippensburg. Mm-hmm. So what did you learn during the initial recruiting process about, for one, what made Shippensburg home for you? And 2, what did you learn about what the college football experience would be like?
I guess initially what caught my eye about Shippensburg was that high-powered offense. I mean, when I was coming out of high school, they were scoring like 70 points on people, and I was just like, well, what are they doing over there? Clearly, they're doing something. So that's what initially caught my eye, and the coaching staff was people that I truly wanted to play for. When I sign something to spend the next 4 years of my life there, I want to make sure it's somewhere I can, trust, have love for me, and they treat me more than just a player, just a chess piece. Like, I want to be treated as a person, as a man, and help be developed into a man that I'm supposed to be. And I kind of saw a lot of those tendencies from Shippensburg at Penn State, which kind of helped my decision too. But I think the most valuable thing I learned at Shippensburg was football is really like a pathway to build so many connections. You can meet so many different people, and it's really a place where you can, solidify bonds and meet guys that will probably be in your wedding, lifelong friends. And that's something I'll always keep with me. I'll always take with me, and I hope to continue that when I get to Penn State.
That's wonderful. No, that's a great sentiment right there. So you commit to Shippensburg, have 3 amazing years there, 3-time first team All-PSAC, freshman of the year in the PSAC as well in 2017. So what was it? I guess here's how I would ask this one. Why are you a better football player now than you were when you committed to Shippensburg? So what was it about the coaching staff? And I'm sure there's 100 ways where you've improved, but how would you feel that you are better now and more well-equipped heading into your graduate transfer opportunity?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that made me very successful on the field early was my mind and the fact that I knew the playbook in and out as a freshman. And that really kind of helped me analyze things. And, obviously coming from high school to college is a whole different game speed. So all these things were going on, but I could read it because I knew my plays and I knew defense as well as a freshman. I think now I'm starting to slow the game down even more. Now, instead of everything being fast-paced and me having to read everything very quickly, I can slow everything down because I've seen it so many times, and now it just makes the game so much easier for me. And my routes are more precise, more efficient. I'm doing everything at a better rate than I was when I was an 18-year-old coming in at Shippensburg. And my ability to be coached is also, I think, is one of my strengths because, once I get up to Penn State and learn everything I can from Coach Stubblefield, I think that's just going to enhance my game as much as ever because, obviously Penn State is a top-tier program who hires top-tier coaches. So I think that's everything once I get up there is definitely going to help me out a lot.
Winston, I'm going to call that the easier question of the two because I can tell you're a humble guy, which is great. So now I'm going to ask the harder question. What did the D1 schools and the Power 5 miss on you from high school? Why, why now? What is it they're seeing now that they missed in the initial recruiting process?
I would probably say the stats, the statistics, the size, both of those things I didn't have coming out of high school. I had size. I was maybe 5'9", 5'10" coming out.
Right.
Didn't really have any stats. Obviously, I had 2 really good games my senior year of high school. I had the kick return at North Penn, had the halftime touchdown. I don't know if you remember that. And then 2 games later, I dislocated my elbow and was out for the season. So, I just didn't really have a lot of film. I feel like I was fast enough. I feel like I had the potential, but, the statistics just didn't show. So, I think everything happened as it should have. I think there were a lot of guys who had better stats, a lot of guys who had better film, and everybody ended up where they were supposed to be. I think COVID really made an opportunity for guys like me to, go get that, second chance at recruitment and show my resume now and see what they're saying now.
That's great. Well, before we get you out of here, I think Coach Stein would kill me if we didn't talk some LaSalle football before we got you out of here. So take me through. I mean, you mentioned 2 great moments, and I remember the kick return, and I remember the halftime play like they were yesterday. But what was your best moment as a LaSalle football player?
it was definitely beating Prep. Like, oh man, that game, it was so much behind that game that a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know, like our senior class, we lost to them our entire high school career, every single game. From freshman football, we play them twice every year. We lost to them freshman football, lost to them JV, lost to them JV again, and then lost to them varsity the first game. So us winning that last game, it was our last opportunity to play St. Joe's Prep, and we won by 1 point. And that's all we needed. Like, that's all we needed. So even though we lost, like we won districts and we lost to Parkland, right? By a bogus call. Even though we lost to
bogus
Parkland.
Call. That's right.
Bogus call, yeah. Even though we lost to Parkland, I was still satisfied because we beat Prep. Like that's the only thing that mattered. Like,
yeah, and every time you see DeAndre Swift running into the end zone for the Detroit Lions, I'm sure you're thinking, well, he didn't get us that one day, did he?
Right. Right. That one time we got him.
That's right. And Nick Ranella's catch, that was unbelievable.
Catch. Unreal catch right there.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the best moment at LaSalle. We did talk about this at the jump, but another LaSalle connection. You mentioned Charles Eden playing with you at Shippensburg, another tremendous player when he was at LaSalle. Do you know, is he still looking for a home as well?
Yeah, he's still looking for a home. He's finalized his options down to a couple choices, kind of waiting to see how things fall out. But I think he should be making the decision very soon.
That's great. That's great. Do you get back to LaSalle much?
Nah, I haven't been there in a while, especially during the COVID.
Oh, yeah.
My little brother may be going there for high school. So, I might be there a little bit more. You might see the Eubanks name and some football equipment next year.
Good.
So, we'll see.
Good. I'll put my hat in the ring and say I want to see him on the football team.
Right.
If that means anything to you,
Yeah,
he can get some nice digital video broadcast exposure if he goes to LaSalle.
Yeah, shout out.
Well, that's great. Well, Winston, I really appreciate the time. Your story is a great one, and your candor is illuminating, and we appreciate you coming on. And glad we're able to snag you before you get on campus. I know they might put the clamps on you a little bit when you enroll in January. But stay in touch.
I'm free right now, right?
That's right. But stay in touch, and we'll be following you every step of the way. I am, like I said, thrilled to have a LaSalle guy play for Penn State. Doesn't happen often, so you got some big fans down here in Philly.
Thank you. I appreciate that.